We have a very active northern branch of the jet stream that will send pulses of energy along that boundary over the next several days, sending rounds of severe weather. Then cooler air is going to be building into the northwest. After that moves out, that's going to allow that colder air to funnel southbound and actually make it all the way into the south by the time we head into your Labor Day weekend, into Labor Day, and eventually heading off into the East Coast. So we're going to break down the details for you in this update. On the vorticity map, you can definitely see we've got a lot of rotation in the upper levels of the atmosphere, and we've got a powerful jet streak that's already screaming in from the southwest. That in combination is going to be the culprit of severe weather today for the Dakotas into Minnesota. And there's also another pocket of energy across areas of New England that will have their own area of rounds of showers and thunderstorms, while further to the south, we've got what's known as kind of an easterly wave. This is moving in a kind of a unique direction from east to west. That is sending some beneficial rain showers just for the deep south. We're talking like Victoria all the way maybe into South Texas. So here's the setup for today on the temperature anomaly map. You can definitely see where the warm air is, right? And I'm talking very hot, not just warm, but very hot conditions with actually heat advisories and excessive heat warnings taking place for parts of Wisconsin, Iowa, back into Illinois. There is that building cooler pocket of air that's dropping those temperatures back into the even the 40s, some 30s this mornings in parts of the higher elevations. In fact, about 8,000 feet above, we were looking at even some snow breaking out in some of the mountain regions. So there's definitely some colder air that will be building, but right now they're contending with all that heat. But that's the heat that's going to be driving that elevated showers and thunderstorms. And you can see the jet stream, all right? This is kind of a traversing across this northern branch here, and these pulses and kind of waves of energy they'll be moving across. So we'll have this active setup today for the Dakotas and Minnesota that will extend into the Great Lakes tomorrow, and then that even extends all the way up into the Northeast heading into your Wednesday. So we have multiple days, but for today we're basically really concerned with the low level winds as well. And we do have a tornado threat. We actually have an enhanced risk right now, but this is an elevated tornado threat, and this could even intensify as some of the new data starts to come in later on this morning. But right now we're deeply concerned about those areas across northern portions of getting into Nebraska here, back into South Dakota, as well as into far western portions of Iowa. You can see the tornado parameters are really pretty elevated for this time of year. There's the concern around this boundary. Wherever you see those these higher numbers, that's where the probability is higher, where the atmosphere will be rotating later on this afternoon into the early evening. So right now the Storm Prediction Center does have that elevated enhanced risk for that same area that we're kind of honing in on into southeastern portions of South Dakota, as well as into Minnesota. That does include the Minneapolis region, and that likely extends into Wisconsin. And there's that other pocket of energy that could get bumpy later on this afternoon back into Connecticut and Massachusetts, those areas into Rhode Island, Nantucket. Definitely have to be on the lookout later on this afternoon. But here's where the tornado parameters are the highest, and the highest tornado threat will unfold, and likely this will expand based on some of the tornado parameters that we're kind of looking at this morning. But nonetheless, right now we do have that elevated threat back into Aberdeen, Sioux Falls, into Minneapolis. This would likely extend a little bit further off to the west and actually expand, and could even be upgraded to a possible 10% area right along the Sioux Falls region, later on this morning. But headed into tomorrow, that same instability just kind of keeps shifting off to the east, and now those areas back into La Crosse, back into the Green Bay region, Milwaukee, Chicago, the Gaylord area, Grand Rapids, Detroit, Cleveland, Buffalo, all those areas are going to be under the gun for widespread severe weather that will be moving across on Tuesday, and then that just extends into the East Coast on Wednesday. So now we're talking back into more areas of Ohio, back into the Columbus region, Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, Baltimore, DC. I mean, DC is expected to be like 99 degrees today. When so you have got a lot of high heat building before this activity hits your area. So by the time you're heading into Wednesday, that atmosphere will be definitely primed for severe weather. But going into Thursday, I think once that moves out, you can actually see what the jet stream looks like, kind of a west to east movement, as these vorticities will be draped across areas of Canada moving in. But the ridge of high pressure slowly starts to weaken, and that's going to be allowed this cooler pocket of air that's building right now into the northwest is going to be allowed to dive more southbound, eating away that heat ridge that's been locked and loaded over this area for much of August. So by the time you head into Thursday morning, it's going to be feeling really nice for those areas into, Idaho, Montana, back into Wyoming, and into Colorado here. We're talking widespread 40s for overnight low temperatures, even some 30s as you wake up on Thursday morning. And that's the cooler pocket of air, although it actually will likely moderate, but nonetheless that will still continue to be able to move further south and actually bring some much needed rain showers with it. So by the time we head into Friday, your August 30th, you can actually see where the cold front will likely be during that time frame, pushing through Missouri, back into Oklahoma by then, reaching the Texas panhandle. So if you're south of the front by then you got that most elevated lift, and it's going to be in the area that we're going to be producing some showers and isolated thunderstorms. If you're north of there, you're likely going to be on the drier side, but it's still going to bring some cooler air and some much cooler air and a relief of the heat dome that's been building across the south pretty much all summer. So this is kind of your first little brief taste of fall, if you will, as the cooler pocket of air will be drifting all the way into Oklahoma and Texas. And that'll be the first wave, and there'll be a reinforcing shot coming in from the north. So you got this area on Sunday. This is your cool front, more or less linger. It kind of slows down. So with the slowing down nature of the cool front, that keeps the elevated rain showers alive in a lot of those same areas. But then you'll have kind of a reinforcing shot of cooler air that will be building out of Canada, and that's going to be moving southbound, and that's the action that will likely impact the East Coast as we go into next week. But going into your Sunday, this is what your Sunday would look like. This is where your cool front will likely be stalled by then. So you have your northern cool front, then you have your southern cool front. So yes, for those areas back into the Carolinas, Florida, as well as into Georgia, Alabama, getting into Mississippi, Arkansas, Louisiana, those areas into Texas will bring some, much needed rain across this region. You're still kind of dry out there across the West Coast, much of California, really much of Washington and Oregon, Nevada, Phoenix, those deserts areas. I think Phoenix will be 92 days in a row of 100 degrees or better. Not really looking at end that streak anytime soon. So you'll be likely, going past 100 consecutive days in a row. Unfortunately, out there, I think the record was like 76. But yes, but it's going to be anything but the heat for those areas across the south and the southeast with that first initial cooler pocket of air. This is going to be your Labor Day. So this should be your actual holiday weekend, Labor Day by then. That bringing those, kind of 5 to 10 degrees, nothing crazy, but definitely some big changes are going to be on the way from what you've seen for really all much of summer. So this is going to be definitely a respite of the cooler, that heat dome that's been building across that region, replaced with some more comfortable air mass and definitely some beneficial rains, because definitely the drought is starting to build back for those areas across the south. And you can definitely see on the humidity map where the cool front will likely be, because it just kind of stalls, right? So you have that first cool front that comes in on Friday, kind of lingers on Saturday, really lingers on Sunday, more or less kind of really even lingers again on Monday. It will be still draped across this region. So if you're south of the front, you're going to be in the area that should be able to kind of bubble up the atmosphere and produce those isolated to scattered showers and thunderstorms. If you're north of there, you're likely going to be on kind of the drier side. So it kind of shakes up like this. Once we have those little vorticities come across the northern branch, you actually start to dry out as we head into the weekend, into early next week. And so for those areas that are dry, kind of drier right now and under that heat dome, you're going to turn cooler and wetter. And that's exactly what's going to unfold as the cool front will be dropping southbound, bringing some of those beneficial rains to the central and southern plains, as well as in much of the southeast and portions of the east coast. And then there's the reinforcing shot of that cooler air coming in from Canada. So this is where you're looking at it on the action on Tuesday, going into that after your Labor Day, holiday, going back to work. Kids are going back to school, and then they'll be dealing, having to have those cooler anomalies unfold. And so by the time we head into your Wednesday of next week, that cool front, that secondary cool front, will reach all the way to the East Coast. So eventually, this will slowly get impact pretty much everybody out there, and we'll just kind of take its sweet time to do it. As we go from, kind of the northwest all the way down into the southeast, all the way through your Labor Day weekend. So guys, I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video, definitely hit the subscribe button, and catch me next update. Why I protect you before and after storm.